Hi, so this is video 2 of using a design wall. So as explained in the first video, this is just purely one idea that I use and how it works for me, because I am a very visual learner and so I need to look. So even while I've been piecing these pieces together to make the blocks, as you can see, I've still got one that's not quite constructed. It's all still separate. But I like to leave it on the wall, take a section at a time to the machine, stitch that together. But I can always look up to see, am I doing the right way? Because making sure that those angles are going in the right direction. So as you can see, this block is pretty much made up of half square triangles. There is one solid piece that's inside there. Now, I didn't give you any dimensions in the first one because that really wasn't part of it, but just in case anybody does ask, I started with 4-inch squares, which I then made into half square triangles, trimmed down to 3.5. Check your seam allowance, make sure. Purists among you might want to start off at 3 7/8 squares. I find it easy to cut at 4, and then if my seam allowance is slightly out, which, you know, things happen, your thread is slightly thicker, whatever. And then I trim down to 3.5. So my extra squares in the corner are 3.5-inch square. And then the double piece, which is in here, is 3.5 by 6.5. So 3.5 by 6.5. And if that's all put together correctly, you might need a slight trim. The finished block should give you 12.5 inches. So because this is just a little baby's tummy time quilt, it doesn't need to be very big. So I've made 3 fish for this one, and I've decided to alternate the fabrics, and the other 3 fish will go into the second one. Now I could just arrange them like that, seam them together through here with probably the same creamy fabric, just to join them together, put some sort of frame around them, maybe do a border. But what I thought is, do fish really swim in a straight line? What if I moved the centre one forward, or even a double forward, like that? And that just changes the whole thing. Now, because it's on the design wall, each of those blocks stands as its own unit. But if I'm going to then join it all together, how I find this helps me to use in the design wall is I can see now the spaces that I've got to fill to make this into one piece. So if I go back on this side, if I think, well, my finished quilt is going to, the finished piece is going to end here, then I can see I've got a wider space there and the same at the back here. So that width should be the same as that width. Now, I can either put a piece through here first, or I can keep the rows, make the rows all the same length, and then sash them together in one, which is what I think I will do. So I quite like, so I'm looking at it now through the screen, and I quite like the order of doing that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide what width I want to go behind this fish, which will bring it into line, probably about here. So I will measure it. This design wall is helpful as well because it's got blocks, so I can line up blocks and I can see the width. So I will make the finished width, and then I will cut the sashing to go between the 3, and I'll join those together, and I'll probably use the same width sashing top and bottom. But because I'm doing this on the design wall, it is a work in progress. So as you can see, there has to be no decisions have to be made until I can actually look at it and see what works. Now, if I don't like it like that, I can come back to here. So if my blocks work better as a straight line, then all I would need to do at this stage is put sashings between block 1 and 2, and the same width of sashing between block 2 and 3. At the moment those gaps are not even, so that would give me one long piece. Then I could put a frame around the whole thing and then decide. But that's the fun with the design wall. You can play around with it and make it whatever you want. So it's just an idea, and it's just a bit of fun, and half square triangles, what could be easier?